game begin.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
I am your father.
You like Huey Lewis on the news?
Yes. And you're not sure about this, are you?
You're gonna die, clown!
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sam?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss. Call it.
Whose motorcycle is this?
It's a chopper, baby.
Whose chopper is this?
Zed's.
Who's Zed?
Zed's dead, baby.
Bring out today!
This is a tasty burger.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Welcome to the fucking show.
Hey, welcome back to See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I'm your co-host, Russell.
And I am Ben.
And Ben is back for his second episode. We're not talking about The Simpsons this week. Ben actually has some questions this week, which will be a first for this show. It's just like a Q&A episode. I'm super excited. And if you have some curveball questions, we can just go for it. And like all the questions I have, I will be asking back to you because I'd like to know what your opinion on the questions that you're asking me are, or opinions, are.
And I think I got some definitive answers. Others, I'm kind of just like, I kind of want to just know what someone thinks of this shit. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to re-pull them up because you messaged them to me. Okie dokie, Ben. Go through our conversation. This makes super good radio, I know. Okay. So, you can start. If you have any other questions that aren't on here, or if you want to put in some, like, curveballs as we go, feel free to do all of that. And then we'll just get into it and have, like, a little conversation about each one.
Absolutely, yeah. And basically, I just kind of thought, like, there's probably not a whole lot of, like, sort of letter to the editor style, like, episodes of podcasts. I mean, surely there's, like, mailbags and stuff like that, but just to have like a barrage of questions on, I mean, we're both super into pop culture, movies, stuff like that. So I figured we haven't had a chance to sit down and go over a lot of this stuff outside of a classroom setting.
Yeah.
And even then, we don't have a whole lot of time to just shoot the shit.
Definitely.
Like before class. So I figured like, let's get to know Russell a little bit more.
For sure.
And then if he disagrees, or if we have a disagreement on something, I can storm out and
it's a controlled medium. Actually, on that note, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. Actually, I probably am. No one made me sign anything. So I just had 2 interviews with TMZ for a position. Yeah, I don't know if I can say the position, but I had 2 interviews with TMZ. And they actually quizzed me, like, with pictures of celebrities and, like, who, like, do you know who this is and what are they famous for? Just, like...
Was it hard?
So, I very obviously, now that I had this interview-style quiz, there are blank spots in my pop culture knowledge. And those blank spots are definitely with pop musicians. I mean, I listen to a lot of indie rock and like a lot of like, it's not oldies, but like Red Hot Chili Peppers 90s rock when I was a kid. So like that,
the oldies, yeah.
Yeah, like surfer rock kind of stuff, and like going a little bit into Sublime, but a lot of that kind of California surfer rock is what I listen to, and kind of newer hipstery rock that kind of resembles that is mostly what I listen to. And then in the gym, I listen to like hip hop and stuff, but I don't really listen to EDM and electronica. Or like metal or country at all. I'm just not a country person, which I've definitely shared on country on this podcast before. But so they quizzed me, and the first few were pretty easy. Like Kanye West was one of them. They started with like these. Tom Brady was one of them. The Migos. They just asked me to name all 3 of them, and thank God I listened to them. There was some of those. There's a few that I didn't know, like John Legend's wife. I knew who she was. I'm like, that's John Legend's wife, but her name is Chrissy Teigen.
Chrissy Teigen, yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't know the name. I'm like, that's John Legend's wife, and they're like, okay. Then there was a few, like, the artist, musician Black China. I'm like, I know the name, but I had no idea what she looked like.
Yeah, I would be the same. If they held up a picture of like Cardi B, I'd be like, who the hell is that?
Yeah, so Cardi B was one of them, but she was with, is it Offset or Takeoff? One of the two Migos. She's married to him, and it was them together. So by like association, like that must be Cardi B.
Okay.
And then there was another one. Oh, it's the musician. I don't really listen to her music because it's not really my demographic. But it's is it SZA? Or I don't. She's featured in a lot of like pop and kind of hip hop-ish songs. Yeah, it's like SZ, but her name is pronounced SZA, and I had no idea how to pronounce her name. And I'm like, oh, that's who that is, and that's how you pronounce the name. But I totally didn't know that one. And then there's another one. It was like was it Kendall Jenner? But she had like her hair dyed and stuff, and I'm like, that's definitely one of the Kardashians or Jenners. Like I recognize, like kind of like I've never really watched the show, but I'm like, this is obviously one of them. I just know it's not Kim Kardashian, and I know it's not like whatever the one who had the baby with Tyga or whatever,
right?
Or Travis Scott.
So bad at that interview because I don't give a shit about any of those people.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Maybe they're listening to this. Hopefully, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really care either about that kind of thing. There's a few politicians on there. Stormy Daniels was one of them. They showed a picture. I'm like, that's Stormy Daniels. And I was like, oh no, I knew that way too quickly. Maybe that's a bad thing. But, but like there was some other ones that were kind of funny that were on that list. There was a few really, really hard ones that like I got that I'm like, did you know that I listened to this kind of music? Because there was like Mark Foster, the lead singer of Foster the People was on there. I'm like, no one would know who the hell that is unless you listen to that very particular kind of music. Because, like, all those musicians from, like, indie bands or even big indie bands like that who've won Grammys, people don't really know what they look like unless they're, like, a front man. But, yeah, that was kind of my TMZ interview, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say what position I interviewed for. But I haven't gotten it yet. I've just done the 2 interviews, and then there's potentially a third one, maybe, if they like me in, like, 2 weeks. So that's yet to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck, man.
Yeah, thanks. It kind of came out of nowhere, actually. They called me the day before my surgery, and they called me while I was in the gym, and they're like, hi, is this Russell? I'm like, yes, who's this? And like, this is TMZ. We're wondering if you want to have a phone interview tomorrow. I'm like, well, I'm having open knee surgery, so probably not. And then I talked to them that following Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you allowed to say, is this a position like based out of like Chicago near home or like Los Angeles?
It's based out of LA.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons I'm a little hesitant about the position. I mean, if they offered me a position, of course I'd have to consider it. But it's out of LA, and there's like just other things with it that I'm like, this is an amazing position. But I don't know. There's a lot of reasons I'd like to be close to home. And then there's a lot of reasons I'd like to be out there. So it's kind of like one of those things where you have to weigh the pros and cons of each kind of position and and say what's best for you at that moment. So I don't know yet. It's kind of this weird thing that I haven't really talked to anybody about. But now everyone will know because it's on a podcast. But yeah, so that's the thing. I'm just not going to say what position it is or anything, just because I don't know if I'm allowed to. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And basically, the only thing I'll say is there's a potentiality I would be one of the people on TV, like reading stories. That's all I'm going to say about it. There is a potentiality of it, because I don't know that side of the job. It might be one of those, but based on the job title, it sounds like it would be. But then there's also a side of it that it might just be a journalistic side. So I don't know. So yeah, that's the thing.
That's big. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's cool. But yeah. That was kind of out of the blue. I applied to it like in March, and I'm like, funny, I applied to TMZ, and then they called me, and I was like, oh my god. I had, like, this is the last company I expected to call me back. Like,
yeah.
Like, on the list, I was like, the last one, I'm like, that'd be funny if they did kind of thing. But they did, I'm like, oh my god, okay. I was gonna, like, just, my first question, I never asked it, but I'm like, where's Harvey? Where's the guy from the TV? I want to meet Harvey. That was gonna be my first question, but I didn't ask. Because it wasn't Harvey who interviewed me. I was kind of half hoping it would be. I'm like, yes! But no, it wasn't. It was like another guy. But yeah, so based on that kind of news and like learning about stuff, let's get into these questions. Let me pull them up.
Yes. Let's get into people that actually matter and not Cardi B or SZA.
Honestly, yeah. Someone's going to get pissed and email me. They're like, well, that person does matter. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you want to talk to me about Anthony Kiedis, I'll talk Anthony Kiedis with you. But other than that, not so much. Okay, so you want to ask me the first question? I haven't pulled up.
Sure. Yeah, all right. This is kind of a two-parter, a yin and a yang, if you will, kind of. All right, so who is an actor or actress you love seeing in any sort of film or television show?
Okay, so an actor or actress I love seeing in anything. So I have a few answer-ish things to this. One of them kind of doesn't count, so it's a little bit of a cop-out answer. Honestly, it was, I have to say was, not is, Robin Williams. Everything Robin Williams was ever in was like a delight to see him in. Just honestly. And then right now, I think two actors, or maybe three-ish, and they're all actually in one of the same shows. I love seeing Jason Bateman in anything. For those of you who don't know Jason Bateman, he's in Arrested Development. He plays Michael. Yeah, Michael Bluth. And he's fantastic in literally everything he's in. I love seeing him. I love seeing Tony Hale, who plays Buster. He's also in Veep. And he's in other stuff. And whenever he comes up, or even as a voice actor, I'm like, yes, he is so just like naturally funny. Or maybe I just think he's naturally funny. So I love seeing him and stuff.
Oh no, and Tony Hale is phenomenal in Veep. He's one of the standout actors or characters in that show.
Oh, 100%. That show I got into because I was like, oh, I like Julia Louis-Dreyfus a lot. She's cool. And I was like, oh my god, Tony Hale's in this as well. I got to get into it. And I think I'm almost all the way caught up. And I'm like, this is amazing. And then I think the last person who I have to say I love seeing in anything is, I mean, I guess this, like an easy answer would be like Will Ferrell, but I love seeing Andy Samberg in things. He is just really good, and he has a bit of range. There's like, if you've ever seen the movie Brigsby Bear, plays a very, very small part in that, but it's a really good part. It's kind of like oddly touching, and I'm like, wow, this is really, really cool. I love it. And there's a movie, or like it's HBO original, like 1 hour fake documentary called, is it like The Greatest Game or The Most Intense Game? Or no, it's like it's 7 Days in Hell. It's him and Jon Snow, Kit Harington, and they're making...
That was like the tennis...
yeah, it's the tennis one.
The tennis parody, yeah.
It's so funny. Like, that's one of those like hidden gem things that I saw when it came out. I'm like, what is this? And then I went back and rewatched it. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, this is so self-referential and funny. So that's kind of my answer for that. And then the second part of that is...
Yeah, the second part, the actor or actress you hope never gets a role again.
Oh, man. Okay, there's a few that I really... One, I guess, like, I don't want... Part of me never wants to see this person in a role again, but part of me is like, this person may make a comeback, but probably not. Kevin Spacey. He's such a phenomenal actor, but now whenever I watch any movie like Seven or anything that he's in, you can't. Because you're just like, you're like, buddy,
yeah,
like, what?
He's lost his... He's lost his right to be someone.
Exactly.
Now.
And that, like, there's like this weird morbid curiosity where I'm like, I kind of do want to see him have a comeback, but then again, I don't ever want to see him in a movie again because that would be rewarding someone who has done horrible things. So, Kevin Spacey, and then also, I'm just not a big Jennifer Lawrence fan. Her whole shtick has gotten, like, just old on me. Yeah, I know. People get, like, weird about... I don't hate Jennifer Lawrence. I don't hate her as a person, whatever. I just like her last few movies I've seen her, and I'm like, I'm just like, She has to change it up. I think that's my biggest thing, because the last few roles have just kind of been like, you're kind of just being Jennifer Lawrence in this movie. And I know in Red Sparrow she was different. I haven't seen it. But I'm just like, about it right now. I guess that's my emotion is, EHHH. So, yeah. So, how about you?
Let's see. From someone I love seeing in anything, I have to go with Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, man. Good pick.
I've been a fan of hers ever since I was far too young to watch Alien and Aliens, but yet I still did. Mm-hmm. She's just the epitome of like a strong female actress that gets great roles.
Yes.
I mean, whether we're talking Ellen Ripley or Ghostbusters, even hell, I almost squealed in delight. I don't know if you've seen Finding Dory.
Yeah.
But they had her as the voiceover for the aquarium out in California, and I was like, that's fucking Sigourney Weaver. That's amazing. But yeah, anytime she shows up, and which I still have not seen her as the villain in the Defenders, She's Netflix Marvel series.
Really,
so I don't know. I'm assuming she's great in that as well.
You know what? Have you seen Galaxy Quest?
I have.
She's amazing in Galaxy Quest. She's like so good in that movie because she has like the comedy role, but she's also kind of the straight man along with Alan Rickman. Rest in peace. Like they're both kind of straight men in it. They're so perfect, and Sigourney Weaver's an amazing pick for that. Yeah, 100%. So who do you not want to see in a role ever again?
I can get on board with Spacey.
Yeah.
There's not really a whole lot of actors or actresses that I genuinely dislike because of their abilities. I mean, there are bad actors and actresses out there, of course, but like, I don't know. I kind of give them like the benefit of the doubt, or like I want to give them like the chance to develop, because 10 years ago I would have said, what's his name, Channing Tatum. I would have said like this dude should not be in movies at all. He's turned into a decent actor.
Yeah, very legit.
He's a great comedic actor too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I guess I posited the question, but I don't really have an answer for that part.
Yeah. Have you seen Logan Lucky?
I have not. That's on my list.
Actually, if you have Amazon Prime, not a sponsor, I wish, but if you have Amazon Prime, if you have Prime Video, it's on there because they distributed it.
I will dash that into my queue because I do have Prime.
Seriously, watch Logan Lucky. It's directed by the same guy who did the Ocean's movies. So
Soderbergh, right?
Yeah, Soderbergh. So it's a heist movie, but they're all like, pardon the term, they're all hicks, and they're doing a heist at a NASCAR event. And it's Daniel Craig is in it. I'm not going to spoil much about it. It is so funny. Especially, it's become funnier for me living in Indiana for the past couple years, that just like some of these people, I'm like, oh my God, this is a real person that I have met. Because before I'm like, this can't be real. But there's a few of these people I'm like, oh my God, yeah, this is real. And it's so well done. Definitely watch it.
I get that feeling like that. It's kind of like, this is hilarious, and I enjoy it because I know these kind of people, with the Adult Swim show Squidbillies. If you've ever seen that. I have seen that. I grew up with a lot of those types of people, and it's just like, oh my God, the creators of the show have spot on got how ridiculous these kind of people can be.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think, I mean, I've seen the show and then met some of those people, like, I guess, and then thought about retroactively. I'm like, oh my God, like, too real. But yeah, so, yeah, that kind of answers that question. What is next? Okay, I have it up. Okay, let's do it.
All right, next, what movie do you think should be redone every 10 years with a different cast and crew?
Oh, what movie should be redone every year with a different cast and crew?
Or every 10 years.
Yeah, every 10 years. Huh. Okay, I have like a fake... No, I don't. Never mind. I was going to put this whole thing and then do a whole bit where I definitely believe... I was going to say Les Miserables, and they just should redo it every year with worse and worse actors doing singing. Because, like, it was amazing, except for Russell Crowe, who cannot sing. But I was like, they should just redo it every time and just degrade it little by little every 10 years. But that was kind of my fake answer. What movie should be redone every 10 years? I think a movie that could be redone every 10 years that would be really interesting is something like The Italian Job or a heist movie, because you can redo it and add new technology to it every time. So, like, in movies like The Italian Job, the remake, they use computer hacking to hack into, like, traffic signals. And they do stuff like that. And it would be really cool to see that 10 years later with social media, see it 10 years later with something else, see it 10 years later with something else, and just constantly adapt it to the future. And I think that'd be a really interesting premise to do that, the idea of The Italian Job, with like the Mini Coopers and everything, but 10 years newer every time.
I get on board with that too. all the answers, all the like movies I thought of that would be like good for doing this, they ended up being like adaptations of like, you know, stage performances or Broadway plays, which when I'm thinking, and then I thought like, well, they do that shit every 10 years anyway, you know, they bring it back on the road. So that's kind of like that's a cop out answer, I guess. But well, yeah, you bring it up like the Italian Job, something like that. It's not really like specific enough to where it's just like, this is of its moment.
Mm-hmm.
It has the capability of being updated.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, it's an ensemble cast easily.
Yeah.
So you could bring in people, and that's a kind of thing where you could bring in actors and actresses from previous ones as kind of those cameos.
Yeah.
Like they've done before.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool because the one from 2000 some odd, maybe 2007 or 6, has like Mos Def in it, Mark Wahlberg, Edward Norton, Charlize Theron. I have no idea. There's other people in that. Donald Sutherland is in it in the beginning. Like stuff like that, and then you could do it again like now, but you could do it like Channing Tatum as like your lead, or Chris Pratt as your lead, and then kind of update it. And if you want like a hip hop like star in the movie, just like they had Mos Def, you could have literally anybody in hip hop who's like kind of relevant. You could have Common in it, or anything like that, and just every 10 years just kind of recycle it and have like a slightly different heist and have a different spin on it with technology and stuff. I think it'd be cool.
Absolutely.
So that's my answer for that.
Okay.
So what is your? So I guess yours kind of same. And I mean with the Shakespeare and the plays, they're like redoing The Lion King again with Disney. I'm like, why? This movie already exists. You're literally retreading the exact same ground. And I
think that they're going off the success of what they did with, or what Jon Favreau did with The Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Doing that kind of mixture of live action and CGI. And I think that was a big success for them. So naturally, I think, you know, the evolution from Jungle Book to Lion King animation wise, I think that, you know, they want to do the same thing with that live action CGI. And Favreau, he's directing this one as well. I'm kind of looking forward to this one though. I mean, it's got Donald Glover as Simba, Beyonce's in it, James Earl Jones is reprising his role.
Oh,
I think it's going to be a pretty good time.
Yeah, I don't doubt that it will be a fantastically done movie because most things Disney does are very, very good. But part of me is like, this is a little cash grabby. But The Lion King is an incredible story that it's Hamlet. But it's an incredible story that is really, really good. And maybe for kids who don't want to see the old cartoon, they want to see a live action kind of version, and it'll get new people into that story, into like how incredible that story is. But they're doing The Jungle Book again, but Andy Serkis is directing it, and they're calling it Mowgli. Have you seen the trailer?
I saw that. Like Hollywood has this bad habit of doing this kind of thing. Like, there's a movie that comes out that's relatively successful, and you know, I want to think that it's not like, oh, let's immediately do something so quickly after that. I want to think that it's like, oh, they just happen to have the same story in development at the same time, but sometimes it's kind of really fishy because like, back in the 90s they had Armageddon and Deep Impact came out with like a couple years of each other. Yeah,
there was that, and then there was the they're a little farther apart, but like Day After Tomorrow and all those disaster movies that kind of came out right after one another.
Yes.
There's also, in the same year, there was The Illusionist and The Prestige, the two magician movies that take place around the turn of the century. And I'm like, okay, what? Like, who was asking for this? And it definitely was someone read a script somewhere, made their own script, and they made them parallel to each other. And just it was a little bit of copying back and forth. And I know one of them is a Christopher Nolan movie, so if you talk smack about him, someone's going to come beat you up. But that's kind of the thing. Like, I'm like, this is very strange. It's kind of the same with this. And I'm like, why? Like, who's asking for this? But whatever. That's like, it's going to be the same way with Avatar. They're making like 9 more of those, and I don't want to see them.
I don't either. Yeah. I have no doubt that Cameron will, you know, present a huge spectacle.
Oh yeah.
That is, it's a, you know, a feast for the eyes. But I want him so badly to go back to like a movie like True Lies or even Terminator 2. Like, those are still like over the top action movies, but compared to the spectacle of Avatar, they're toned down. You know, they're tame almost in comparison. But I thought that I personally love True Lies with a passion.
100%. Fantastic movie. Even Aliens.
Yes.
That he did was really, really well done. I'm like, dude, go back. If you want to do something like that. Because people would ask for another one of those. No one is asking for Avatar the sequel. Like, no one... I mean, maybe some people are, but don't. Like, do something new. But yeah. That's...
One sequel? Okay, sure. But, like, what? What does he have? Like, 4 planned sequels?
Yeah. And he's, he's pumping
rest.
$2 billion into them.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see if people will flock to the box office for those.
If they market it well. I guess
for the first sequel, sure, I'm guessing that'll probably pull in a good chunk for the opening weekend and over the next couple weeks. But I think there's going to be a bit of saturation with those movies, like if it's year after year.
Oh, 100%. I think, okay, I have a question for you that, like, a quick question. What do you think? So, like, the Western was the big thing, right? For ages, and that, like, defined part of cinema, right? Was the Western. Yeah. What do you think will be the thing to kill the comic book movie?
To kill the comic book movie? Man, I don't know.
What genre will be the thing that comes and overtakes the comic book?
Oh, okay, that overtakes.
That kills it.
You know, I think comic book... Sorry,
do you have a dog?
Is begging me for something right
now.
No,
it's fine. Dude, it's all good.
But I want to say that I think the comic book movie genre is going to implode on itself. I don't know if anything is going to overtake it so much as they're just going to run out of ideas. I mean, shit, they've already crammed dozens of superheroes into Infinity Wars, and hell, it's just like, what else is there to do? What other stories do we have to tell?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I'm not hating on comic books. I love them. They're amazing. They're good for
exactly.
They're good for the film industry because they make a redonkulous amount of money. But I think maybe, so it's 2018. I think by 2025, it's going to be on the downhill. I think
that's a good time span.
I give it like 7 years, 8 years, maybe 8 years, but I think 7 years. Because how many more of these can you make that are fresh? And that's the thing. But yeah, so next one. Let's see.
Okay. What movie do you love that everyone else hates? Or I guess you can answer either or. You don't have to pick. We don't have to go over both. Or what movie do you hate that everyone else loves?
Okay. Ooh. What movie do I love that everyone unanimously hates? I don't know if people hate it, but this isn't something I hate. This is something that critics really panned and did not like. There's like 2 movies. So the first one's called The Nice Guys. It's Shane Black who did Predator. He's actually doing the new Predator
love that movie.
Yeah, The Nice Guys.
I love that movie.
It's so funny. I love that movie. A lot of people did not like it or didn't get it. I thought that movie's fantastic. But a movie people unanimously really don't like that I like. What is yours?
I think mine is not universally hated. It gets a lot of backlash though, and I think I know a lot of the reasons why. But I think Forrest Gump is just a genuinely good movie.
Yeah,
that a lot of people. I think it's trendy to not like that movie.
Okay, yeah, I can see why. It's a fantastic movie, but I do know why a lot of people don't like it. There's serious flaws with the film, and like some people like can look past it, but there are some serious flaws with that movie that people are like, no, it's the perfect movie. It's not. If you you look at the movie objectively speaking, not growing up with it and not having like the nostalgia goggles, there is so much wrong with that film. If you look at a timeline and about this human Forrest Gump and about what he is and what he stands for and like that metaphor, there's a lot wrong with that film. But yeah, I'm going to get hate for that as well. But
it's certainly not a perfect movie by any means, and it's corny as hell.
Oh yeah,
but it's just you get like or at least for me, I get just this kind of warm like, all right, this is a good movie to sit down with and just have a good laugh, or and there are just some genuinely
it's very touching.
Some genuinely touching and emotional moments, especially between Forrest and Ginny, and by the way, Robin Wright, phenomenal actress, beautiful woman. Just she's another person I love seeing in a lot of things.
Oh yeah,
but and I think it'd be hard. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody else that could have pulled off the character of Forrest Gump than Tom Hanks.
Oh yeah, you know what? Tom Hanks is someone I love seeing in everything. Yeah, he's one. Give Tom Hanks more things because he's incredible.
Yeah.
You know what? I think a movie that people really didn't like, or maybe it's kind of like a cult hit. I love Pineapple Express. That movie, and I love Pineapple Express. I don't know what in me, because there's a lot of stoner comedies, but something about Pineapple Express just makes me laugh so much every single time. There's so many lines that I just think it's one of those movies that you can't compare things to The Big Lebowski because The Big Lebowski is on a different level, but it's one of those almost Big Lebowski movies where it's just so cult and strange, and I love it.
I do too. I think Pineapple Express is a great movie. Franco, he's perfect for that role.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's kind of come out that he's a real piece of garbage as well. But you know what? Whatever. That movie's fantastic, and I can look past it for that film. And then movies that I don't like that everyone unanimously... I don't like the David O. Russell movies. I don't like Silver Linings Playbook, and I don't like American Hustle. I do like The Fighter, though. That movie's really good. Those two movies...
Fighter's a great movie.
I don't like American Hustle, and I don't like Silver Linings Playbook. I think they're just the Hallmark card of movies. They are what I have now called... This is a term. Maybe someone else has coined this. They are the red velvet cake of films. Just as Marvel movies are red velvet cake, where it is just a vehicle to get cream cheese frosting into your face. Those movies are just a vehicle to get sappy emotions into your face, whereas Marvel is just a vehicle to get action into your face. That is what it is. It is the red velvet cake of films. So
okay, I see that. I can personally say I enjoyed Silver Linings Playbook, but I do get your point absolutely that it is a vehicle to get across kind of that. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I recognize its flaws, but I still enjoy that movie. A movie by David O. Russell that I really like is Three Kings. That was a 90s movie with George Clooney, Ice Cube, and Mark Wahlberg. I thought that was a great movie.
One second. I'm trying to think of another movie that I don't like that everyone really, really likes. The one will come to me. There'll just be movies I just don't like, and it'll come to me, and I'm going to just spit it out later in the podcast. Mine for sure that I just despise this movie, and I don't know how many people actually love this, but everyone I guess that I grew up with enjoyed it and talked about it all the time. Napoleon Dynamite. Okay,
that movie's fucking stupid.
I don't get it. I don't get why people love it. I don't. It's just that. There's a bunch of movies that in that kind of Nickelodeon making movie era. I don't get it. Why is it funny? It's not funny. It's just kind of dumb and schlocky and 100%.
Yeah, I did. You hit the nail on the head as far as my feelings. It's just why do people find this entertaining? It's some dumb guy who you know what? I'm going to go back to my first thing. Actress, I hope never gets a role again. Whoever that guy was that played Napoleon Dynamite. I know he had a few roles after that, but if I never have to see his face again, I'll be fucking happy.
You know who I hate? Is it Nick Schwartz? Not, he's in those movies. It's Nick Schwartzman. It's not Jason Schwartzman. Jason Schwartzman's in all the Wes Anderson movies and stuff.
That's what I thought you were talking about.
Have you seen?
I like Jason Schwartzman.
No, have you seen Blades of Glory?
Yeah, and that's the actor. Yeah,
he's the guy who plays the weird fanboy who's I want to wear your skin. That dude.
Yeah.
That I hate him. Get him out of things. But yeah, him and Amy Schumer. I don't care. Not funny. I don't like it. No. But
I'm indifferent towards Amy Schumer, really.
yeah, I'm not about it. Not a fan. So okay, next. Oh, what?
All right,
Yeah. Okay.
here we go. Movie you wish you could experience again for the first time.
Ooh, you know what? I would say my favorite movie of all time. I know it's 3 movies, but it's my favorite movie of all time is Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to say Lord of the Rings. I'm going to say Star Wars: A New Hope.
Okay.
I
Do
wish.
you wish you could watch that, like, experience that same feeling as a kid seeing it for the first time, or do you wish you could, like, be as your current age and just watch it for the first time and be blown away?
I think watch it now and be blown away. Especially because like the whole Star Wars thing and people like very, very, very on both sides of like the coin on Star Wars right now because of the whole Disney thing. But I wish I could go in right now in our world and watch A New Hope and the original trilogy. Oh man, cute dog. Watch the original trilogy for the first time and just be floored. That's what I wish I could do.
Okay. Mine would have to be, I think, the original Jurassic Park.
Ooh, great call.
Like, I remember going to see that in theaters, like, 93 with my brother and my mom, and there was nothing like it.
Yeah.
That movie holds up so well.
Yes.
Especially the CG, and I loved that Spielberg, incorporated so many practical effects, like as far as the dinosaurs and the animatronics. The movie still looks like unparalleled as far as special effects and the realness of those dinosaurs. Even if scientifically they've proved that velociraptors were like little ankle biters at this point or whatever, and have feathers. Who gives a shit? Like back then, no one had heard of a velociraptor in mainstream culture. And those things were like the biggest villains in the world after that movie came out. But yeah, that's a phenomenal movie still. I wish I could, just kind of be blown away by something like that.
Yeah,
again.
and that scene in the kitchen with the 2 velociraptors is still so tense. And even though you know what's going to happen, them just going into the kitchen and you just know. And it's so real because it is real because all of that stuff is actually in camera. It just blows you away. And also I like seeing that Dilophosaur mess up Newman. I just think that's
Newman
amazing.
Eating it it's satisfying.
Yeah.
That's one of the, I'd say that if there's a complaint I have about that movie, there's a very odd point during that scene where Newman, bites the bullet. When he slips down that kind of slope, that muddy slope in the rain, there's a sound effect of like a slide whistle.
What?
Where, he goes like, and it's just like, what the fuck was that? Like, this
really?
movie's been like, yeah. If you go back and watch it again, it's a weird, like, goofy sound effect as soon as he slips.
Huh?
And it takes me out of the movie every single time. But then he gets eaten after, and I'm like, okay, I'm good now.
So yeah, through the magic of editing, we're back. I had to pause because my computer was about to die, so I had to get the charger. So, yeah, you know what? That scene, Jurassic Park, 100%. Jurassic Park is one of those, I wish I could experience for the first time. Even like Indiana Jones, like all the like those Spielberg kind of movies, even though he wasn't super involved in the first Star Wars, I know he was a little more involved in the other ones, just kind of by proxy because he's friends with George Lucas, who's never won an Academy Award, which is weird. Like one of those people you would think would have won one, never did. Okay, so what is next?
All right. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Will we ever again have a megastar like Arnold Schwarzenegger for film, or Michael Jackson in music industry? And my answer to this, at least maybe I am so out of touch with current pop stars and film actors, which I think I'm pretty familiar with many film actors nowadays, but I don't think Schwarzenegger's been touched yet.
Oh, 100% no. I think maybe someone who, not Arnold Schwarzenegger level, like, I don't think anyone's ever going to get to that level. Also, because he was, like, the Governator. He's, like, done everything. I think someone who could maybe get close is Tom Cruise. But Tom Cruise has all this weird stuff in his personal life, where he's not a bad guy, he's just very weird. I think he could get close as one of those all-time greats, but never like Schwarzenegger. I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe with music, Michael is pretty untouchable. Michael is like Michael Jackson is like Michael Jordan. Maybe LeBron might overtake Michael Jordan. Maybe. I don't think so. But people can argue that. But in music, at least right now, in our music scene, in my opinion, there is no one as talented. I
think that as far as maybe like, even just, if we're like, if we're not even considering talent and just kind of like popularity, I think music-wise, I think there are people that are closer to Michael Jackson than anyone in film is to Schwarzenegger. Like,
yeah.
I think Beyonce is probably a superstar of the caliber that Michael Jackson is. And also, like, it's kind of, I'm just trying to think, like, these were, when they were in their prime, was such a different time and, like, atmosphere for Hollywood and the music industry than it is now. So it's really hard to compare, say The Rock to Schwarzenegger when Schwarzenegger was just, he was larger than life, and his movies were just these grand action epics, and even the ones that weren't as huge as, say, Terminator or something, like Predator was mostly in a single location, like the jungle or whatever, but he commanded movies. And I think The Rock relies more on his supporting cast than has the kind of presence and just the superstardom that Schwarzenegger ever had.
Yeah, I don't think any movie The Rock has been in has paralleled anything that Schwarzenegger has been in, like True Lies or like of course Terminator, which they're still making. Or like anything that, even like Schwarzenegger's not as good movies are still so good. And it's like a name. Anyone in the world knows it. I mean, yeah, The Rock to some extent, but all of his movies, like, who cares? Like, he's incredibly charismatic and nice dude, whatever, and probably like one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. But his movies don't hold up the same. And I think with Beyonce, yeah, but I think Beyonce has, with some of her music and some of the things she has done and said, have boxed in her demographic a little bit. Where Michael, everyone loved Michael. You know what? I think Paul McCartney.
Paul McCartney solo or with Beatles?
With Beatles, because Wings, I don't like Wings or Paul McCartney solo stuff. But, I mean, Wings have good songs, and Paul McCartney solo stuff, and I saw him live a few years ago at Lollapalooza, and Paul McCartney, it was like, oh my god, like, I've seen Red Hot Chili Peppers there, I've seen Jack White, like, I've seen Metallica and other big rock acts. But Paul McCartney, there's just like this thing, because he was a Beatle, or is a Beatle, but I think if you put Paul McCartney next to Michael Jackson on a lineup, who would get more attention? I think Michael.
Yeah, no doubt.
Michael's the king. I don't think anyone will ever touch Michael Jackson, or they shouldn't. Because you just shouldn't. You shouldn't dethrone the king like that. Because, like...
Yeah,
even young Michael, his dad just died yesterday.
Yeah, he looked fucking terrible, too. If you saw any of the pictures of him recently, it was just bad. Like, ugh.
Yeah, it looked like, oh, dude, you were looking a little bit like Gollum. Like, not good, dude. Something's up. And he was only 87. Yeah. I mean, that's old, but not the way he looked. I'm like, dude, you look like 107. Like,
right.
He looked like he was melting.
I think Michael is, like I said, I don't keep up with modern pop stars, but like people that have genuine recognizability and that are just household names. I can't think of a whole lot of modern pop music or musicians except for probably Beyonce. As far as just straight up pop music, maybe back 10, 15 years ago, Britney Spears, was pretty close.
Oh, 100%.
As far as just being like a cultural phenomenon, but still, she was leaps and behind behind Michael Jackson as far as how much he controlled pop music and just like being the megastar that he was.
You know what? I think you hit it on the head. You said, I don't know because I don't keep up with pop music. That's why I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't need to keep up with pop music to know who these superstars are. Because if you're keeping up with it, that means you're in that loop, which means you know. But like someone you could ask, like your dad or like your old neighbor, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I know who Michael Jackson is. Duh. That's how you know. But if you go up to someone and you tell them, or you ask them, I mean, Justin Timberlake is big, but even some people be like, oh, kinda. But Michael Jackson was like Jackson 5, like Little Michael, then like Thriller Michael. And then even in his years before he passed away, was like making hits. He was like doing like his tours, and like he would sell out essentially a country for people to go see him. And I don't think anyone at all has gotten that or that famous for that long of a period of time, because he was famous his entire life. He was always in the spotlight, and I think that adds to it. And you can put on any Michael song, and I do not think anyone will ever get that close, at least not that we know of yet. Maybe there is that person, but they haven't gotten that famous yet, or maybe they're still a kid and they'll blow up, and people are going to be like, "Oh man, this is a force to be reckoned with."
Nobody that's in the current circles or atmosphere of stardom. Nobody that I can think of, film or music, will touch Schwarzenegger or Michael Jackson. Yeah,
maybe someone is been born that they will be that person, but yeah, no one in the circle right now is close.
Yeah.
Okay. Next. I want you to answer this first.
Okay.
What film can't or shouldn't be remade?
I had a pretty quick answer to this. Jaws.
Okay.
I think that specific story. I mean, clearly, there's been killer shark movies that have come out also, that have been influenced by Jaws, Deep Blue Sea, Sharknado, that dumbass series of movies. But you cannot replicate how Jaws turned out because of how it was made.
Yes.
Like how many things went wrong on that set for Spielberg, and how he turned all that, chaos, and how much of a shit sandwich that set was in like production. He turned it into he turned it into the first summer blockbuster.
Yeah. It's essentially Steven Spielberg faking it until he made it. And he was like 22 on set. He was 23. He was my age making that movie, and I think he probably dealt with that the same way I would deal with that. You're just losing your mind on set, and you're like, I just hope this comes out well. And you know what? That movie is not a perfect movie by any means, but it's perfect for its flaws, kind of thing. It like that movie, you watch it, and the shark's in it for like 9 scenes, but like it's that suspense, and because of what you don't see. Same with the original Alien, where it's a dude in a xenomorph suit, but like there's so much that like could have gone wrong that probably did, but they like it's kind of like you trip, you fall, and then you do like the Gene Wilder flip at the end, and you just completely nail it. Also, never remake Willy Wonka again. That shouldn't have ever been remade. Don't touch Willy Wonka. Don't touch Gene Wilder. But yeah, that's not my answer. I think there's a few movies that should never, ever get remade. Never remake Lord of the Rings, ever, for any reason whatsoever. I know they're doing the Amazon show. That's fine. Don't ever touch Lord of the Rings. No.
Jackson did it too well. He did it the way it should have been done, and there's no reason to even try to improve upon it.
Exactly. And the Lord of the Rings, people don't realize that's not the original version. There's a cartoon from the 60s and the 70s that did Lord of the Rings and did The Hobbit, which is horrifying. I've talked about that on the show. That The Hobbit cartoon scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. If you haven't seen it, look up the goblin scene on YouTube. It'll give you nightmares. It'll make you like check your closets. I'm not kidding. But don't ever redo Lord of the Rings. Don't ever do Lawrence of Arabia. Don't ever do Casablanca. Don't ever do Indiana Jones. Don't ever remake these movies. Like, maybe they're the ones that I love. Like, they're like my top favorite movies of all time. But just don't ever do them. Like, these movies and the original Star Wars, never redo A New Hope. Because you don't need to. Like, I think Hollywood forgets that these movies it's good to see old movies, and I think people in Hollywood think that like new like kids that because millennials ended at like 1998 or something, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Because you have to remember the turn of the century. I think to be considered a millennial, you have to remember the millennium. Because if you're 2 years old, you don't remember. I think it might end at like 96 or something. But so for those people, you know what? It's good to watch old movies. Watch a black and white movie. It'll help you. And it makes you understand things. Don't just remake everything because it's old. Remake something because it needs to be retold and maybe told in a different way. Like Steamboat Mickey. There's weird blackface stuff in that. Maybe redo that. And let's get rid of the weird blackface stuff. Stuff like that. That maybe should not be culturally talked about. But a lot of these other movies like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones, Lawrence of Arabia, which is a true story, or like Gandhi, don't redo them, for the love of God.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that Star Wars is pretty safe.
I think Star Wars and Lord of the Rings are safe. There's a few of those other ones. Like I don't know if Indiana Jones is as safe as we think it is.
I buy into that. I think that as Spielberg ages, if he's still alive while someone decides to try and remake it, and even if, I don't know if anybody would ever try and remake the exact story of, say, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
But I think a reboot is definitely in consideration right now. I'm sure someone is out there talking. Well, hell, they wanted to do it with Shia LaBeouf, which thank God that fell through. If it did, for sure fell through, because I personally just do not like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, that movie is just like, that's one of those weird sequels that you just never need to watch. And for people, like, it's like watching the Hobbit movies. For people who you want to have exposed to Indiana Jones or Lord of the Rings or even Star Wars, just, like, never show them the prequels or just guide them around it. Just be like, hey, watch these ones. The other ones are weird fan fiction. Just don't watch it. Just stay with these. These are the good ones.
The day that my kids say, like, Dad, I thought there were 4 Indiana Jones movies. I'm like, kids, you're being lied to. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It ended at The Last Crusade.
Yeah, and I mean, I also don't want them to do another one with Harrison Ford. One, because Harrison Ford hates doing movies now, and it's hilarious. He's just phoning it in so hard. And 2, you don't need to make more. That adventure-style movie is so what it is and was in the 80s. Don't redo it. It's like redoing movies that had Val Kilmer in them. You don't need to redo them. They are awesome for what they are. Like, don't redo Top Gun and stuff like that.
Oh, they got that sequel coming out soon.
I know, and it makes me upset.
I never got into Top Gun. I mean, I accept it as like a movie, but I never bought into like it being this sort of like cultural phenomenon or like, I don't see why I should like it that much.
Yeah, I 100% see it. I've seen Top Gun. I just like it because it's like one of those movies that's so silly and weird that's like, that's pretty funny. You know what movie they should never remake? Never remake Happy Gilmore. I love it. Happy Gilmore, I know it's bad. It's my favorite sports movie. And I know people are going to be like, what about Rudy? What about Remember the Titans? Happy Gilmore's my favorite sports movie. I don't care.
That's Sandler's best movie.
Oh, 100%. After that, here's a movie that I love that everyone universally hates. Little Nicky. That movie is so bad, but I love it so much.
I get good laughs out of that.
Yeah. It's just like the whole thing with him doing that stupid ass voice and him like, it's so funny, like in just the dumbest way possible. But yeah, those movies just never redo, ever, please. Or Titanic. Don't redo Titanic.
Shit, I don't know if the budget would be available to do that.
Even though Titanic is a remake of Titanic.
Right.
Yeah. But don't redo it again.
God, that production of that movie is just a whole story in and of itself.
Yeah. You know what? There's probably like even Avatar, for what it is, don't redo it. Like leave it.
I guess you could argue that was a retelling of 6 different stories that have already been done over and over in Hollywood again.
Yeah, that movie is the same as like, it's like Pocahontas mixed with Last of the Mohicans and
Dances
the last
with Wolves, Fern Gully. Yeah,
Last Samurai. It's like all those movies combined in weird blue Smurfs that have sex with their hair. But yeah, just there's so many that you just don't redo. And there's some that you should redo. There's some movies that I could see being kind of a flop right now, but if someone else took up the mantle, you could probably make a fantastic movie out of that. I think, like, I don't know. That's a good question. What's a movie that should be remade?
I can't think of one right now, because you kind of think like movies that should be remade are either like just bad to begin with, and you maybe don't want to see anything like that again, or I don't know. It's just kind of like, I think good reasons to remake something is like kind of how you talked about earlier. Is it's a few years down the road, you have ways to update it that are relevant and to make it better. So it's kind of hard to look into the future and be like, all right, what's going to be going on then, which would give us a good reason to remake something like, I don't know, The Fast and the Furious, which I hope that doesn't, just because I don't like those movies.
Yeah. Fast and the Furious is kind of a remake of Point Break, which is sort of what, in a weird way, kind of what it is. You know what movie I could see that it was a good attempt, but try again, was the Superman Returns from like 2005, where they tried to where they tried to redo that kind of campy Superman, and Kevin Spacey's in that movie. Oops. But that kind of Superman movie, like, I get it. I like Henry Cavill as Superman. That whole DC universe is just weird. But just make a Superman movie that is like the Christopher Reeves ones. Just make something that's like kind of lighthearted and fun, and you can take your kids to, you can take like your grandparents to, and everyone will enjoy it for a different reason, and it gives you that like sense of like hope, and it has that like this nerdy dude can be something bigger than anyone else, and it's not like this weird dark universe. It's just like, it's New York and there's a plane crashing into a field, I gotta go save them, or just like these like small-ish things that like you could do that and it'd be so cool.
I agree. I think that as good as Nolan's Batman films were, they set a bad precedent by being so good.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers / DC film universe took all the wrong lessons from that.
Yeah.
Like, Batman's a perfect universe for going dark.
Mm-hmm.
But something like Superman, I 100% agree with you. Like, there's ways that you can make a dark Superman good. Warner Brothers has not figured that out yet.
Yeah.
But take it back to its lighthearted sort of like, Superman's just your everyday normal guy that, he's Clark Kent. He's going to go save the day, and don't make it so damn brooding and moody.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't have to.
I would love to see that as well.
And it doesn't have to be world ending. It can just be like, even like the Dark Knight movies aren't world ending. It's like he's fighting the Scarecrow in the first one. He's fighting the Joker, and then Bane is the most world ending, but not even. And I mean, that's like the worst out of the three. And even that movie's really good. And I think just make a Superman movie where it's just a very inconsequential thing. And like, you can do it in that Dark Knight style where you make it very believable, but don't make it like dark, because those movies aren't, I mean, they're like dark, but they're real. They're like, that movie could be an episode of NCIS because of how like grounded it is, like where the Tumbler is essentially like a tank, and Batman is getting all of his stuff like from like this kind of like behind the scenes military stuff, and he's just sort of a dude who gets his ass kicked and has bruises. Like, make it real, and make the Joker like kind of just a terrorist.
Yeah, I think the difficult part of making a Superman film that's not like on a world-ending scale is because Superman is a god.
Yeah,
and it takes like a world ender to really try to defeat him. I mean, unless you're thinking of like Lex Luthor, but even then, in some of the comic stories, like, he went to world-ending lengths to try and beat Superman.
I think, actually, if we're going to pitch one, someone might hear this. Do a Superman movie now. Do it with Brainiac, but have it just be with social media and the internet, and do something like that with Brainiac and how our world is so technology-driven. And don't have it like world-ending, like the world's going to die, but do something like that where it's like something that's an actual foe, but it's not a real thing that he can fight. It has to, like, it's a little psychological, a little bit fighting, but there's also like this very grounded sense to it, where it's not like, we're going to terraform the planet and kill all of humanity. It's more of those, like, we're going to shut down all technology, which is like a big deal, but it's not going to end the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of those. That I don't even know where we went with that, but that, yeah, it was good. So, cool. Next one. I want to ask you first. I want to know your opinion because mine might be a little different than yours. Most important filmmakers of our lifetime. I'm going to spin it. What are the most important filmmakers to you? Because the ones you wrote were Spielberg, Tarantino, Scorsese, Cameron. Those are probably, like, if you're going to make a Mount Rushmore of directors, that's probably who it is. But who are the ones that are most important to you?
Well, I guess I formed this question thinking, like, with the intention of which of these filmmakers that I listed is the most important of our lifetime. Not necessarily these are, which I did list these because I do think they are probably, if we were going to give a top 4 or 5, those are the ones that fall into that category. Mm-hmm. But of those, I think important, and I think it's important to distinguish that I don't feel like important and most talented are the same. Because my answer is Spielberg. I think he's the most important filmmaker of our lifetime, but I don't think he's made movies of the same quality as, say, Tarantino or Scorsese.
Yeah.
But thinking, like, the movies that Spielberg has put out, just even in our lifetimes, Jurassic Park, Saving Private Ryan, hell, he did Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same freaking year.
Yeah. Like,
that's unbelievable.
Yeah, he essentially did them, like, simultaneously. Not simultaneous, but kind of. What else was in our lifetime? So Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan.
Minority Report.
Oh, yeah, Minority Report. Even, it's not Day the Earth Stood Still, it's the other one. Tom Cruise, Aliens.
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. That's a really, really good sleeper hit. Like, that movie's really good and really suspenseful.
Yes, it is. AI as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, if you go back to before we were born, like, he's putting out hits one after the other. Like was mentioned, Jaws, Close Encounters, E.T. He is a director that can make children's movies, populist hits that the whole family can enjoy. He makes deathly serious movies like Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. He's phenomenal at doing that. Munich, another one that we've discussed before, is a great film.
Yeah, Munich is
just as far as importance and who's going to leave a lasting legacy for every, like, budding filmmaker in the future. I think Spielberg cannot be topped in that sense.
I think so too. Even like the ones we named off, and I know this only a bit of his filmography. Even, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's one of his first films ever. It's called Duel. It's just a dude who's being chased by a truck. That movie's super intense and really creepy. Like, even those things are so good. But, like, if you think about E.T., I think, I don't know about your childhood, but I had, like, a childhood riding bikes with friends and having that kind of thing, and, like, never finding an extraterrestrial, but, like, having those kind of, like, childhood moments. And E.T. hits that perfectly. And maybe for kids now, I don't know, maybe I live in, like a very suburgatory kind of neighborhood where, like, kids ride their bikes to school every day and stuff. And maybe these kids also have these things, but, that kind of movie is so timeless in so many ways. That should never be redone. Never remake E.T. Ever. Don't ever touch E.T. But, like, yeah, like, Schindler's List, like, that's a heavy watch. And Ben and I were in a Jewish, like, history cinema class together at Purdue, and we did like these final kind of really big reports on films that were, like, very quintessential Jewish films. My two that I was going to do were Ten Commandments, because it's like it's 10 Commandments. but I did Schindler's List, and it was surprising how many people hadn't seen it. And
I definitely think the age of most of the people in that class would be a reason for that. Like, what reason did they have to want to watch like a just a gut punch of a movie like that at, before they were the age of 18 or whatever?
Yeah, I could definitely see that, but maybe, I don't know, again, I don't know like about everything in your life, but my parents sat me down and showed me Schindler's List probably before I was like old enough to see it. But it's one of those films where you're like, oh my god, like it almost is a documentary in a lot of ways, and it's just like with Ralph Fiennes in it and like Liam Neeson and Sir Ben Kingsley and stuff, like, oh my god. Like, Steven Spielberg, even with that movie alone, if that was the only movie he ever made, he would be one of the greats. And then he just tops it off with, like, 35 other films. But, like, I think you could do an entire podcast episode on Schindler's List. Not that you would want to, because that's, like, one of the hardest films to get through, like, ever. And didn't Spielberg do La Amistad as well? The Slave?
Yes, he did, yeah.
That's another hard one to get through for a different reason. Also about the atrocities that humans do to each other. But, like, yeah, it's Spielberg, yeah. I mean, what is your opinion of Tarantino?
He is probably my favorite filmmaker because of he has not made a bad movie. Of course, he has different degrees of success within his own, filmography, but I think no one does dialogue better than him. Yeah. I think no one sets up a scene I think no one sets up tension building better than him. Yeah. Like, anytime if anybody were to ever ask me, like, what's one of your favorite, like, tense moments or something, I would point them to the basement scene in Inglourious Bastards. Like, the bar in the basement. That is such a tense scene that builds up, just creeps up before it just explodes.
That scene, Inglourious Bastards is a perfect example. I know my dad doesn't like Inglourious Bastards. He doesn't hate it, but he's like, there's problems with that film, which there are. But that scene, the initial scene where Christoph Waltz goes to the French house and they're just talking and he's drinking milk. That scene and the one where they're eating the apple strudel in the restaurant is so tense. Because you know what's happening, and you think he might know, but he doesn't yet. And you're like, oh my god, is he going to figure it out? And it's just all happening over this stupid-ass piece of, essentially, pie. And you're just like, oh my god. Like, that is some of the most incredible directing of, like, actors. And, yeah. I 100% agree. And I mean, Pulp Fiction, I have it in the theme song. Like, that movie's just so iconic in so many ways. And it's been, like, copied. And it's been, like, referenced, and there's, like, homages to it in so many things. Like, just, like, there's so many funny little lines where, like, I don't have it exactly in the theme song, but it's where, like, Bruce Willis's girlfriend is like, whose motorcycle is that? No, it's a chopper. And he keeps saying that, and she's like, whose chopper is it? He's like, Zed. And he's like, who's Zed? Zed's dead, baby. And it's just, like, one of those things, and I know you're, you may or may not know, there's an EDM, like, electronica, dubstep band named Zed's Dead after that one line in Pulp Fiction.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and it's just like, that just shows how much, like, gravity that film holds.
Yeah, I would, like, yeah, Tarantino, he's definitely my favorite. And I think, going back to kind of the main question, Spielberg, I recognize is a great director and an influential one. But he was not responsible for any movies I would say that are my favorite movies. Like, Tarantino, like, he's put out, Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Bastards, Django. Those are, like, I will sit down and watch those if I see them. Like, on, like scrolling through. Scorsese, Goodfellas, The Departed. Goodfellas, Jesus Christ, that movie's awesome. James Cameron, he's responsible for my favorite movie of all time, Terminator 2.
Yeah.
And then also Aliens, True Lies, Titanic, like, all those guys, the rest of those three have put out movies that, I consider just absolute masterpieces. Spielberg is more or less like he's done so much, and he's done so much for the film industry. That's why I would put him in as the title of probably the most important filmmaker of our lifetime.
I think in a lot of ways, I mean, a lot of people would probably argue about like the greatest filmmakers of all time. There's like Kurosawa, there's like George Méliès at the beginning. There's like the film history. The brothers. Lumiere, not Lumiere brothers. The Lumiere brothers. Yeah, it's Méliès and Lumiere brothers. There's like what's his face?
Orson Welles.
Orson Welles. There's you have Stanley Kubrick. You have Fellini. You have like all these crazy, incredible directors. But then like you get to our lifetime, even like Taxi Driver, which is Scorsese. You have like even modern Wolf of Wall Street, and it like just tells the story of Jordan Belfort and just him being a nut. And it just makes that character so relevant and real. And you know what? Like, The Departed, all of that. And Cameron with Titanic. And you even get, like, his new movies that he'll be... Even, what's the one where he's... The underwater one?
The Abyss.
Yeah, that movie's still pretty good. I mean...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, yeah, I totally agree. Who is... So, Scorsese... Tarantino's your favorite director of all time?
Yeah.
I have a weird answer. So, my favorite film of all time is Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson is not my favorite director, though. He directed that movie marvelously. The cinematography, storytelling, all of that is probably perfect in almost every way. I think maybe my favorite director, or a few of my favorite directors, I love Alejandro G. Iñárritu, who did Birdman, he did Babel, and he's done The Revenant.
Yes.
Like, those movies have made me be like, oh my god, you can do that. Like, you can make something that real. I love him. I love Denis Villeneuve, who did Sicario. He's done Arrivals. He's done Blade Runner 2049. He did Enemy. He's done so many great movies and very visually great.
He did Prisoners with Hugh Jackman, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
That was a great movie.
I love him. I love Christopher Nolan. I love Wes Anderson. But Wes Anderson is his own genre now. And
yeah.
I think Wes Anderson is one of those directors who will be studied in classes 20 years from now.
Especially aesthetically and like, you know, production design. He's going to be... He's untouched as far as that goes.
I think he is one of those directors who is such a perfectionist in every single way that his movies, I'm going to sound dumb and preachy, they like transcend what normal movies are. They turn into something different. Because like all of his films you can watch, you instantly know it's Wes Anderson. Even if you don't know who Wes Anderson is, you're like, oh, it's that movie. It's exactly like this other one. And if someone's like, yeah, they're the same director, you're like, well, obviously. And you could show anybody a Wes Anderson movie, they're like, this is different. And I don't know why, but it's different. And it's like all of his movies have really big gravity and there's like important things to be said. But there's also like this lighthearted, like childishness to him that makes you be like, wow, like this is how I felt when I was 12. And, like, you see that love. And then I think recently Guillermo del Toro, with The Shape of Water, has made himself, like, very, like, oh, this is a guy to look out for. Even though he's been making stuff like Kronos and all this stuff for and Pan's Labyrinth. But Shape of Water was one of those movies that hit me.
I still haven't seen it. I need to get on that.
Dude,
I've been meaning to.
What are you doing? Go out and watch it. Like, it's on iTunes.
I know it's going to be coming out on like HBO now, like sometime in the next couple months. So I'm kind of just like biding my time for that.
That movie is really good if you've ever felt marginalized in any way. If you've ever felt like marginalized or outcast, that movie speaks to you. And I think it really shows Guillermo del Toro as an international filmmaker because that movie's, I mean, it's in English. Well, actually, some of it's in English. A lot of it's in Russian. No spoilers. But the movie, it is very like a French film, and studying film, you can see it's very not an American style movie because when you watch it, you'll know, you're like, oh wow, this is very different. And I think it's important to show American audiences who may have never heard of a French film before and may have never seen anything besides Transformers, something like that, and they're like, oh wow, you can tell a different kind of story. And you can say things subtly, but more... You can say something subtle, but have it be more impactful than the most preachy-ass thing ever. And I think that shows great filmmaking. But yeah, that's like the long-winded answer for that question. And then... the last one that you have given me. So, the last question. What movie or show are you excited for? I'm asking you.
Asking me, okay. I am a big... Well, I guess I got a movie and a show.
Okay.
I'll start with the show. I don't know if you watched or have kept up with like this past sort of season of HBO shows.
Yeah.
But there was a show that came out called Barry.
I have heard of it. Okay.
Oh, fuck. The first season is just finished. Like a few weeks ago. I am already just impatiently waiting season 2 to come along because that show hit me out of nowhere. I figured, I had an idea it was going to be entertaining because I have full faith in HBO comedies. Silicon Valley is hilarious. We've talked about Veep.
Yeah.
Curb Your Enthusiasm is a classic. I didn't realize how well done Barry was going to be. It's funny. There's some scenes near the end of the season that are just completely emotionally raw, and I didn't know that Bill Hader had this kind of range to act. I want him to get a Best Acting Emmy for this show. So I highly encourage anybody to watch. Like, you'll catch up with the first season. So I'm looking forward to a year down the road when that show comes back.
I just looked it up while you're talking about it. I have seen screen clips from this, and I've seen like little things from it. I'm going to start watching it. I have HBO. But it's one of those things I heard about, and then I've seen little bits of it, and then he's been in interviews and talked about it, and I'm like, I should get around to that. But I 100% yes, that one I will watch, especially because of your glowing review. And then a movie that you're excited for.
Movies, I've always been a fan of horror movies.
Okay.
That's like kind of my first love in filmmaking was horror movies. I think my dad was wrong to show me all the Friday the 13th movies at such a young, tender age, but I thank him every day for it because it instilled a love of the genre for me. But David Gordon Green and Danny McBride are rebooting Halloween.
Yeah.
Coming out this October, and I am pumped for this movie. Just from the trailers they've showed, I think they're doing something right. They're doing something that, 7 sequels and 2 Rob Zombie shit stains have failed to accomplish that John Carpenter did back in '78. So I'm looking forward to this movie, and I really hope it doesn't stink.
Yeah, you know what? I think the most recent It movie, which is getting this chapter 2, has paved the way for making very good horror movies again. And I think, you know what movie could be remade? I know this is blasphemy. Alien. If you redid Alien, because Neil Blomkamp, the guy who did District 9, wanted to remake Alien. And there's concept photos of it. Holy Christ. Look them up. That would be so cool.
Was he wanting to remake it, or was he wanting to make a direct sequel, like an Alien 5?
It was kind of going to be like how the new Halloween is. It's not a remake. It's kind of a soft reboot.
That's right. Yeah, because Newt and Hicks were going to be still alive, weren't they?
Yeah. So it's not a reboot remake, but it's it's like a soft reboot refresh of the universe. And the concept photos that he had for it are so cool. Like, that would have been bone chilling, exciting, and not Prometheus. But
yeah, and Ridley Scott wasn't on board, was he?
No.
He didn't like it, and he wanted to do another Alien movie himself, and then he came out with fucking Covenant, which was that movie frustrated me to no end.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I was answering text. You know what? Good call. With movies, what I'm excited for, Last Man with Ryan Gosling about Neil Armstrong on the moon. That's like a suspense movie. If you haven't seen the trailer, look it up.
Yeah.
That, and then they're going to be doing a movie on Dick Cheney, and Steve Carell's in it. Sam Rockwell is playing George W. Bush. That movie might be Best Picture. That and Last Man are both Best Picture, like kind of like Oscar buzz.
Isn't Adam McKay doing the Cheney movie?
Yeah, okay. I believe so. So that's going to be really good. And then a TV show. Everyone says Game of Thrones. I mean, I'm a Game of Thrones fan, Game of Thrones. But I think another show that's kind of a sleeper hit that's a comedy that I really, really want to see come back is Big Mouth, which is the cartoon on Netflix. I want to see a second season of that. I love Nick Kroll. I love John Mulaney. I need to see another season of that.
That show was so damn funny. There wasn't a show I can think of that made me just have to pause Netflix more often because of just absolute hysterics laughter.
Oh, 100%. Actually, the podcast is like running way long, so we got to end real quick here. But yeah, so those are all the questions. Do you have any curveballs for me before we end?
Curveballs? I think we might have pretty much covered anything else that I wanted to cover.
Of course, you are invited for all of the podcasts in the future, so we'll be doing another one very shortly. This one's actually coming out tonight, so it'll be literally up within an hour. But I don't know why I'm talking about this on recording. You know what? Hi, everybody. You are hearing this as well. But yeah, because Ben and I are on FaceTime. But yeah, Ben, thank you for those questions. It was an awesome discussion. I love doing these kind of things. Let's do more of these. And then I'll ask some of you, because I have some questions for you that are like movie related, media related, and also like just a little bit of life related for you.
For sure.
And then I'll turn it back on the table for you for the next one. But until then, this is See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I hope you really enjoyed this movie-focused one, just talking about films, talking about why we love them, and hopefully making it relatable to everyone else and not going too far over everyone's head. And if you want to reach the show, you know how to do it. It's always linked in the description of the episode. If you like it, always, comment, send me an email, like me on Instagram or whatever. But yeah, so thank you so much. Ben, do you have anything to say?
Nope. Thanks for listening. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Of course.
I always love doing this. And yeah, anytime I come up with more questions, I'll write them down and I'll have them ready for next time.
Awesome. Well, that was See What Sticks. Have an amazing night. Goodbye.